Good evening. Thank you for joining this evening's virtual event hosted by Congressman Dan Lipinski on financing college, federal, and state financial aid resources for students and families. Please stay on the line as we wait for additional participants to arrive. Tonight's information session has an excellent lineup of presenters that will share valuable information for students, families, and anyone looking for more information about what federal, state, and other options are available to pay for the cost of higher education. Joining Congressman Lipinski, our panelists are from the U.S. Department of Education, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, the College Board, and the University of Illinois. These presenters will share information and answer your questions about navigating the financial aid process, among many other topics. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to use the chat box to submit your questions to the panelists. Panelists may address your questions throughout their respective presentations, and there's also time reserved to end for questions and answers. Now I'd like to turn it over to Congressman Dan Lipinski for some opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline, and I want to thank everyone for joining us here this evening. Before I was elected to Congress, I was a political science professor at the University of Tennessee and the University of Notre Dame. And so I know how critical college education is, but also how difficult the financial situation is right now. It's tough to get through those financial aid forms, and especially now, the high cost of college combined with COVID and what many of you probably have faced, a loss of income, and it just makes it even more difficult to get through the process. But that's why I brought together this panel today to help. So first of all, each of the four are going to give going to speak at the beginning, give an outline, give you some ideas about going through the financial aid system, getting through the forms, knowing what financial aid resources are out there, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. Earlier this year, the House passed the CARES Act, which provided $14 billion to higher ed, to colleges and universities. This money then went to students who were going to be hit by not being able to, say, work jobs that they were expecting to be able to work at school. This fall, different schools are in different situations, but again, I'm sure there's a lot of students who were expecting to work who've not been able to work. We have that issue also. There has not been any additional COVID relief passed by Congress. I'm hopeful in this lame duck now after the election there will be. I led a letter to the House leadership saying that asking for $47 billion to help colleges and universities and help them with financial aid for students. So hopefully we can get something like that done. But right now, I'm going to turn it back over to Jacqueline, who's going to moderate. Jacqueline is my chief of staff. If you have any further questions after this, after it's all over, you can always reach out to my office, but hopefully we will help answer a lot of questions for you this evening. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Congressman. And again, if you have questions, as the Congressman mentioned, you can use the chat box and you're welcome to send those to all panelists, and those will come through to us. During tonight's event, you'll hear from representatives from the federal and state government and the education sector to get information on how to prepare financially for college. As I mentioned earlier, we have an awesome lineup of speakers today from the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Federal Student Aid, again, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, the University of Illinois, and the College Board. I'd first like to welcome General Mark Brown, who serves as the Chief Operating Officer of Federal Student Aid at the U.S. Department of Education. Brown is a retired Major General in the U.S. Air Force with over 32 years of service to our country. Most recently, he served as a Deputy Commander for the Air Education and Training Command, where he was responsible for Air Force education as well as basic and technical training. Prior to that, he served in a series of roles across the U.S. Air Force, including Commander of the 2nd Air Force, Director of Financial Management and Comptroller, and Mission Support Group Commander. General Brown is joined by Fred Stennis, who is the Outreach Team Supervisor at the Federal Student Aid Office. Mr. Stennis has dedicated his 25-year career to assisting students and families achieve an education beyond the secondary level. General Brown and Mr. Stennis will share information about federal grants and loans, the FAFSA application, and other resources available to students at the federal level. Thank you for being here, General Brown and Fred. I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to you both.
All right. Well, thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you, Congressman Lipinski, for that, for allowing us to be with everyone tonight. As was stated, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Federal Student Aid, the U.S. Department of Education here in Washington, and I'm very happy to be with you all tonight so that we might unpack this issue of federal financial aid processes, which is not, I admit, a simple issue all the time to understand. But first, let me say, in this period of great uncertainty, that I hope you and your families are all safe and healthy. We recognize this is a difficult time for many, but as you consider your options for the upcoming academic year, I want one of those to be to fill out the free application for federal student aid, known as FAFSA form. It is more critical, I think, now than ever for everyone to fill that form out. And that's what I want to talk about, that important process. I want to first start by telling you a little bit about my background. I do that because I want you to know that the federal student aid process is a very personal process to me. Like I imagine many of you, I'm from the great state of Illinois. I was born on the south side of Chicago. My father was a barber, my mother was a nurse, and like many others today, I needed help to pay for college when that time came around. I decided to join the ROTC, and that decision shaped the rest of my life. That problem, along with financial aid, helped me to do many of the things that I've been able to do. And so I got my bachelor's degree in accounting from Tuskegee University, and I know firsthand the impact that financial aid has for students and their families. So as an organization, we're committed to helping students and families across the financial aid process to achieve the educational goals that you may have already spoken about at your kitchen tables. In 2018, we started the My Student Aid mobile app, which made it easier to complete the FAFSA form by allowing students and parents to fill it out and submit it on any mobile device of their choosing. Believe it or not, that app has been downloaded now more than 3 million times. And in the past year, FSA, our organization, has helped about 12 million students just like all of you, in nearly 6,000 schools with federal grants, loans, and work study funds. Now that you have options when it comes to how and where you use your federal financial aid, that's an important part. You have options as to how you can access this. By that, I mean aid can be used for any of several paths to help you achieve your higher education goals. This could include attending trade school, like ETI School of Skilled Trades, community colleges like the City College of Chicago, or a traditional four-year college like DePaul, Chicago State, or even way up north like a school like Northwestern. The purpose, in fact, our objective at Federal Student Aid is to help you students and parents alike to get to the outcomes that work best for you. We want to help. But it's not just to help you access financial aid. We also want to empower you and your family to make the best financial decisions for your unique circumstances. That means we want you to ensure you understand the responsibilities that come with receiving aid. We've launched several tools on our website, and that website is Studentaid.gov, over the past year to help you do just that. Tools like Aid Summary, which allows you to view summary and detailed information about loans and grants, and Loan Simulator, which calculates the loan repayment options to help you meet your individual needs and goals and not to become overextended. Our new annual student loan acknowledgement tool guides you through an online process to help you understand how much you owe, how much you can borrow, and acknowledge your responsibility if in fact you choose to take out student loans. Also later this year, we'll be launching an enhanced feature on the My Student Aid mobile app that I mentioned earlier. This feature, like a dashboard, will have a personalized homepage where you'll be able to see an overview of your aid, view upcoming loan payments, and access relevant content, resources, and checklists. All of these tools have been designed to help you as a family become a better informed and more responsible customer. Lastly, I want to stress the importance of starting your research early. If we have any high school sophomores or juniors listening tonight who may be thinking it's too early to consider how you'll pay for college, please know that that's not the case. It's our goal for you to be prepared for your higher educational financial journey well before you graduate from high school. This is precisely how you set yourself up for success and ensure a better financial outcome for you and your family down the road. And now I'd like to turn the program over to Fred Stennis. Fred, as was mentioned earlier, works in the Customer Outreach Division of Federal Student Aid's Office of Student Experience and Aid Delivery. Before joining FSA in 2007, Fred had gained valuable experience working as a financial aid director, someone that on a college campus you will become very familiar with. As a former recipient of financial aid himself and the parent of 2 college graduates and 2 younger daughters, Fred has a well-rounded understanding of the challenges faced by many students and families as they navigate the road to achieving an education beyond the secondary level, what many of you, I think, are considering. Fred is going to talk to you about the different types of federal financial aid, the application process itself and timeline for doing so, and the tools and resources available as you consider your options for paying for college. At the end of the program, along with the other panelists, Fred and I will be happy to answer any of the questions that you may have. Again, thank you for having us here at the Department of Education. And with that, over to you, Fred.
Thank you very much, General Brown. I appreciate those remarks. I also want to say thanks to Congressman Lipinski and Jacqueline as well for the invitation to be with you this evening. As was mentioned earlier, we're going to talk a little bit about financial aid and the FAFSA application. And I have a few minutes, so I'm going to go rather quickly, and we'll take your questions and answers at the end. Just an agenda, brief agenda, where we're going to cover the FAFSA application, the process, and things like our programs, as well as special circumstances and some tools and resources that the General spoke about earlier that I think will be very helpful for everyone on the call today. Let's get started. Who should complete the FAFSA application? And whether you are a traditional student going back to college, or an adult learner going back, or a graduate student, or even someone who's interested in studying for a program online or pursuing a vocational or special credential, you should complete the FAFSA. We don't want you to think and walk away thinking that the FAFSA is only for those traditional 18 or 19-year-old high school students, because it is not. Again, finding financial aid, and you have a lot of some panelists tonight that will speak from their various entities, but I represent the federal government, so I speak specifically about what we offer at Federal Student Aid. But we want you to know that there's state aid available, institutional aid, and you should pursue options from organizations and foundations that all can help you fund the cost of post-secondary education. So you could be a recipient of funding from all these sources or one, but we really encourage you to seek out all the help you can get. And we are just one of those options as well. Let's learn about the FAFSA application. When to complete the application. October 1, 2020 was when the 21-22 FAFSA application was launched. So if you're planning to attend college between this upcoming school year, between 21-22 academic year, the FAFSA application is ready for you to fill out as of now. So the process generally starts for those students who are graduating from high school their senior year. You'll do the application online. So if you're a junior or a sophomore or freshman, you have one more year to begin, but we wanted you to know that the application is now open, and it opened up and was launched as of October 1, 2020. Again, the free application for federal student aid. Why should you fill it out? Again, this is an application where your college uses to determine the eligibility for what kind of programs and how much of those funds you'll be eligible for. So it's critical that you complete the FAFSA application. And after submitting the FAFSA application, you'll receive what's called a student aid report, or a SAR. That's a document that will outline your responses to what you gave on the FAFSA application. Is what's critical, and what institutions use, again, to determine your eligibility for federal funding. What's the eligibility criteria? As you see here, basically in a nutshell, as long as you're a high school student or a graduate with a diploma, GED or certificate, you have a valid social security number, U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, and students or male students registered between 18 and 25 for selective services. So all you have to do is just be enrolled or accepted into an eligible program, pursue a degree or certificate, and make satisfactory academic progress, which is sometimes called as SAP, and the institution will monitor that for you. So it's really simple. This is a basic eligibility criteria, and we think all on this call should be eligible. But for more information, feel free to log on to Studentaid.gov/eligibility, and you'll find some more details around that. Where to find the FAFSA application? As was mentioned earlier by General Brown, we've launched as of 2018 our new mobile app. So we really encourage you to download that on your iTunes, your Apple Store, or your Android store, where you find your apps, or you can go directly to FAFSA.gov or Studentaid.gov. But all these sources are ready for you, whether you use a desktop, a tablet, or a mobile app. We want you to take advantage of the opportunities there to access the FAFSA application. As I mentioned earlier, October 1, 2020 was when the application was launched. And again, you can get to it directly by going to FAFSA.gov or use the mobile app to access the information needed. Let's begin. The process in a nutshell will begin with an FSA ID. How to create the FSA ID. You'll log on to FSAID.ed.gov, and you'll enter such information as your email address, and you'll create a username and password. And you'll enter information like your date of birth and your social security number, as well as you'll set up some challenge questions, and you will read and accept the terms, and we'll verify your mobile app and your email address. Now, the mobile app and the email address are not necessarily required, but we strongly recommend them in case you lose your username or password. We can easily reset your information and get you started again. So the FSA ID is something we really encourage everyone to go out and complete right now. And that's going to be for a student as well as the parent from the same household. You can also go on to our YouTube video. There's about a 3 to 5 minute video that will outline everything I just said and in more details that will break down the ins and out about setting up and establishing and creating a new FSA ID just for you. So we strongly encourage you to take advantage of that. Now let's move into the FAFSA application process. 4 easy steps. Step 1, students will complete the FAFSA application and sign it with the FSA ID. Next, the FAFSA will be processed by us, FSA, and then students will receive a student aid report, as I mentioned earlier. And at the same time, we'll send the information to the colleges. They'll receive their version, which is called an ISAR. That stands for an Individual Student Information Record. But it's basically the same thing as a STAR. One's a student version and one's a school version. They'll use that information to determine your eligibility. And step 3, when you go to the application, the FAFSA application, you will also list which schools you're eligible or interested in pursuing. You can list up to 10 schools on each application. So that's how we know who to send the information to, because you listed the information on the FAFSA, whether that's a 2-year school, 4-year school, public school, private school, in-state, out-of-state school, all those will be listed on the FAFSA. And then in step 3, the colleges will receive your information that we sent them, and they will assemble an award letter. And again, they will assemble the award letter package, which will outline which programs and how much funding you'll be able to receive. And then step 4, you'll be able to sit down with your family, parents, and students and examine all the packages and see what's best for you. School A may offer you $10,000. School B may offer you $5,000. School 3 may offer you $25,000. You just won't know, which is why we encourage you to list up to 10 schools on the FAFSA application so you can see what your eligibility for funding could be if you attend that particular school. Next, if you haven't seen or noticed, we strongly recommend that you check out the IRS data retrieval tool. It's a fast, easy way of transmitting your federal tax information onto your FAFSA application or into your FAFSA application, and you don't have to worry about getting those laborious forms all out. Just easily access it through a button on the FAFSA application, and the information will be accurate and transmitted directly from the IRS. So you can still submit your information in a manual way. It is an option, it's not required, but we just wanted you to make sure that you understood that the IRS data retrieval is a powerful, easy, convenient tool that the schools like. They know it's authentic data coming from the IRS, but also convenient for you as well. So we really encourage you to take advantage of that IRS DRT. Now, types of federal student aid. We at Federal Student Aid, we give out billions and billions, upwards of $120 billion every year in the form of grants, loans, and federal work study. And as you know, grants here, as indicated on the screen, are free monies, monies you don't have to repay. Typically, our signature program is our Pell Grant program, or our SEOG program, stands for Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, or I ran our Afghanistan Service Award for those individuals who may have parents who were in that campaign and may have lost their lives. So these are dollars that you don't have to repay, and you only can be considered if you complete a FAFSA application. Also, our loan programs, we have various loans. I strongly recommend that if you choose to participate in a loan program, that you do not borrow in excess of what you'll need. So it's a program that's helped many students out. We have the lowest interest rates around versus the market. So if you do participate in the program, I strongly encourage that you look at the federal loans before the open market loans as well. And of course, our federal work-study programs, an opportunity for students can gain resources as they work part-time on campus, whether they work on campus or off campus. Some schools have partnership with entities like hospitals and schools where they can send students to work in those entities and receive payment from the federal work-study program and receive an actual paycheck every 2 weeks. So it's a program that really has helped a lot of students out through the years. So all these programs are programs that you can be considered for after you complete and submit a FAFSA application. So we strongly encourage you to do so as soon as possible. Special circumstances. These are issues and challenges we hear about around the country all the time, and dependency override. On the left side of the screen, you'll notice here independent status. If you fit one of the 9 criteria that are listed here on the screen, you are considered an independent student. If you do not meet one of the 9 criteria listed here, you are considered a dependent student, which simply means you'll be required to submit information as a dependent student from both the parent and the student. I'll say again, the parent and the student, the biological parent and the student. If you are not a dependent student and you meet one of the criteria, we'll only look for information from you as a student. For more information, again, go to Studentaid.gov/dependency and you'll get all the details surrounding that. And we know if you have questions around that afterwards, we can take your questions and comments afterwards as well. But we hear a lot of comments around the country as we travel and work with parents and students all the time who have questions about, what if I don't live with my parents? Well, it really doesn't matter. We're still going to look for information from the parent and the student. Well, what if I'm unable to provide information from my parent? You may be able to submit the FAFSA information form without your parent information, despite being considered for a dependent student due to special circumstances. So if you have special circumstances, and they vary from A to Z, but if you have those special circumstances, you can submit your information as an independent person, and the school will follow up with you, and you can follow up with the school as well in terms of how to resolve any open questions that may exist. Or what about if I have an unwilling parent? Well, unfortunately, that's not a legitimate reason to be considered independent for dependency override, but we do know that situation exists. But what has changed over the years is that at least you will be able to submit an application and be considered for an unsubsidized loan without your parent information. Or if your parents are not a U.S. citizen, that's okay too. They can submit a FAFSA application. They won't be able to do an FSA ID, but the student is a U.S. citizen will be able to complete an FSA ID and use that FSA ID, and the parents can use the signature page at the end of the application and mail that in, and we'll mirror those two, that information up with the FAFSA submission and the paper application. So all is okay, and you can all get some resolution to those challenges. Again, special circumstances, we get that all the time around the country. These are just a sample situations that we see in here. There's a whole plethora of other special circumstances, but the key thing here to remember is check out the school's website, see what their process is for resolving your special circumstances. You can expect to submit some information around what your circumstances is, or are, I should say, by submitting some documentation, and the school will determine whether or not you have enough information or supporting documentation for them to take action on your behalf. So the key issue here is to follow up with the school and learn that school's special circumstance process. And I recommend you check out their website, the financial aid page, but they will be the ones determining whether or not an override is fitting or not. So I want you to make sure you understand that. And I'm winding down. Just want to share just a little bit about our tools and resources. General Brown mentioned Studentaid.gov, our website. It's a front-end process where we combine several websites into one to make your experience much more easy. Personalized dashboard. Once you log in with your FSA ID, you'll see information around your grants, your loans, and other information that you have received over the years, a customized field. We think that's going to be very beneficial. And also was mentioned the loan simulator, where you'll get, again, it's a personalized tool to help you make decisions about your student loans and repayment options and how to, if you want to consider something like loan consolidation. So we really want you to take advantage of logging in with your FSC ID at Studentaid.gov so you can learn more about these tools. And Federal Student Aid is always working to enhance our products and services. And we want you to know to stay tuned to announcements and other information regarding other enhancements. And we are in the social media space. If you are interested in Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, check us out anytime. You can give us a call at 1-800-458-8. If you have questions, we have operators standing by, as well as our operators in different time zones. So we're really, really standing by, ready for you. And lastly, we're hosting a webinar on November the 19th. So you, parents, students, and college access professionals, if you're interested in learning more about special circumstances and verification, we encourage you to use the link that's listed on the screen and join us. We're welcome. We're glad to have you. And that concludes my remarks, and I'll turn it over to Jacqueline O'Day at this time.
Well, great. Thank you so much, General Brown and Fred, for that informative presentation about FAFSA. And I certainly learned a lot myself on that, so thank you. I'm now going to turn to Tommy Samanik and Trey Cohen with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. They serve as ISAC core representatives. The Illinois Student Assistance Commission is the Illinois state agency that is tasked with providing Illinois students assistance to help make education beyond high school accessible and affordable. Mr. Samanik will share with us specifics about Illinois' grant programs, the alternative application, and other financial aid resources that the Commission can provide. Welcome, Tommy and Trey.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie. Let me go ahead and share my screen really quickly. Right. Okay. Well, as Jacqueline mentioned, my name is Tommy Samanik, and I do work for the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. I'm joined with my colleague, Trey Cohen. I want to thank Congressman Lipinski for inviting us to speak this evening, and I'm looking forward to getting to a little bit of the financial aid process. I am also going to go quite quickly because I have a lot of information to cover, so if you could please bear with me. Just a little bit about ISAC. Our mission to provide Illinois students with information and assistance to help education beyond high school, whatever that might be, more accessible and affordable. To give you an idea of what Trayvon and I do, there's like 100 of us across the entire state of Illinois. We are assigned to the Moraine Valley Community College District. So we have about 15 schools and community-based organizations that we are in charge of. We split them up pretty evenly, and our job is to help those students and families with the college-going process, especially financial aid. All right, let's get into it. So financial aid, as Fred mentioned a little bit earlier, is anything that is borrowed, given, or earned money to help you pay for college. We all know that college is very expensive, and all of us can probably afford around here. So financial aid is intended to bridge that gap. I know we all think college is impossibly affordable, but once the financial aid process kicks in, it does get a little bit more manageable, and you're able to mitigate some costs. So try and bear with it. So some types of financial aids, this might be a review for some of you. Gift aid we have, I can think of gift aid as a gift. If grandma gave you 10 bucks in the mail for your birthday, that's yours now, that's a gift. You don't have to repay that back. So that comes in two main forms. We have grants, which are more need-based, and then we have scholarships, which are more merit-based. Then we have self-help aid. This is where the students kind of have to seek out this money a little bit more. We have loans. Again, Fred kind of talked about those already. Money you will borrow and be paying back. And work study. Fred covered this as well. This is that on-campus job you can get through the FAFSA. You can spend that money however you feel, but the money you earn from that job does not count against you for FAFSA purposes. So that's why it's a nice little safety net that the government provides for you. So sources of financial aid. Federal government here, think of the Board of Education, think of General Brown, think of maybe the Pell Grant in this situation. State government, think of me, state of Illinois, ISAC, maybe the MAP grant in this situation. We'll talk about those. Colleges are going to have their own institutional aid as well. They're going to have their own scholarships and their own grants. And then outside private sources, if you were looking to do private options for funding, that would be up to you, but I like to think of outside scholarships here for this fourth source. Two big must get to know financial aid sources. Students, if you're listening here tonight, please make email your best friend. It's going to be part of your life from now on. If you see these two symbols in your emails, it's important and you need to make sure you're reading them because it probably has to do with your financial aid. This is my logo on the left, ISAC, Illinois Student Assistance Commission, state. And then here's General Brown's logo here, the Department of Education. This is from the federal government, okay? So just make sure you're paying attention to those two things. Okay, so what do I get when I file FAFSA? What are these two grants? First, we have the MAP grant. This is the state need-based grant. You can see the money eligible there. And we have the Pell Grant. This is the federal need-based grant, dollar amount listed below, totaling to over $11,000. This is why all of us tonight are stressing the importance of FAFSA so much, because there's a lot of money available for you all. And if you choose to not file FAFSA, you're telling the government and everybody else involved, I don't need any of that $11,000. I got it all in my pocket. And I know that's not true for a lot of you, so that's why we stress it so much. Okay, here's some of our specific state programs from ISAC. I do not know all of the details for all of these off the top of my head, so I'm going to refer you to the ISAC website at isac.org, but I'm gonna go ahead and go through them quite briefly. So the first, we have the MAP grant, right? That's that state need-based grant that we discussed earlier. The Veteran Grant and National Guard Grant, again, you had to have served in order to qualify for those two grants. The grant for dependents of police, fire, and correctional officers. This is if your parent was either killed in the line of duty or at least 90% disabled. These bottom two are teaching programs. So if you're a minority student, maybe looking to teach in the state of Illinois, we have a grant out there for you. Or maybe you're a student looking to get into special education. There's a tuition waiver available for you. The biggest thing with these two teaching programs is that you need to make sure that you really want to be a teacher, because there's a teaching requirement attached to them after graduation. And if you don't complete that teaching requirement, that grant money you got turns into a loan. So just make sure you're watching out for those specific details when applying. So how do I apply for financial aid? Well, we have two types of financial aid applications here. You will fill out one or the other, not both. We heard a lot about the FAFSA tonight. We're going to get into that. But brand new this year in the state of Illinois, we have the alternative application for Illinois financial aid. So let's get into the details of each of these. First, we have the free application for federal student aid. Again, guys, this is a free application. This is what the site looks like, okay? You see my little screenshot here. If it doesn't look like this, you're at the wrong site. If you're at a site that's asking you to pay to complete the application, you're at the wrong place and it's a scam. Again, this is an application used for state and federal financial aid programs, okay? And a lot of colleges will also use it to award institutionally, which is, again, why we stress it so much. So that's FAFSA. Now, brand new this year in the state of Illinois, we have the alternative app, okay? Now, this is a state financial aid application only. So this is strictly a MAP grant application. And it is open to qualifying undocumented students and transgender students. Well, why? Because undocumented students and transgender students don't necessarily qualify to complete the FAFSA. So that's why the state of Illinois this year enacted this application so we can give those types of students some kind of need-based money that they need. Again, this is also a free application. We found at ISAC's website at isac.org/alternative app. You'll have that URL provided to you a little bit later. So as Fred mentioned earlier, that these applications do come out October 1st every year. Who's going to complete these applications? It'll be high school seniors and returning college students. This process does renew every year. So if you're a returning college student, hopefully you filled out your FAFSA already and renewed that. We have the FAFSA.gov URL there, and here's the alternative application URL I was talking about earlier, isac.org/alternative app. Again, these applications are used to determine need for federal and state aid programs. Okay, there's a lot of specific details on the FAFSA that I could explain, but don't have time to. But I want to go over the one of them briefly because Fred talked about FSA IDs earlier. So first for the FAFSA, you will need an FSA ID to sign it electronically. Think of it as your FAFSA account, okay? The student makes one, and one parent makes one, okay? The reason why the parent makes one is because they are going to have to sign the application at the end. So on the application as well, it's going to ask about social security numbers, okay? And some parents may not have a social security number. Again, that's totally fine, but know if you don't have a social security number, you cannot create an FSA ID. So thus you can't sign the FAFSA electronically. Well, then how do I sign? Parents who don't have SSN numbers will be printing out a signature page at the end of the application. They will provide a wet signature and mail it to the address on the sheet. So that's how FAFSA electronic signatures work. The alternative application is a little bit different, right? Usually I'm dealing with undocumented students, so social security numbers may not necessarily be a thing. So all you need is a valid email address to be verified. They'll provide you with a PIN number, and you'll provide that PIN number at the end of the application to sign the app. Again, one student does this and one parent does this. So that's electronic signatures for each of the applications. Now, at the end of each application, no matter which one you fill out, it will generate a number known as the expected family contribution, or the EFC. I don't like to get too bogged down into the details with this. I know it confuses parents a lot of the times, but know that it's used as a scale, okay? It's the amount the government expects your family to contribute in one academic year. Not that you will contribute that, or not that you even can contribute that. Just know that they use the number as a scale to determine financial need. That's all it is, okay? So just know you're gonna see that at the end of the application. All right, some tips and reminders here. Again, if you haven't completed it yet, the application did come out October 1st, so we need you to get that done as soon as possible. I do get a lot of questions. Hey, Tommy, when's the deadline for all this? We came out October 1st. Do I have to get it done tomorrow? Not necessarily, okay? We recommended ISAC by Thanksgiving, but again, if the MAP suspense date last year, for example, was in July. So you do have some time, but you want to get it done as soon as possible because this money is appropriated money by the government. So if it runs out, it's first come, first served, and you could be missing out on it, which is why we need you to fill out as soon as you can. Information on FAFSA is totally confidential. I'm sure the general and Fred can talk to you about this as well, but I've never heard of a situation where someone got in trouble for providing any information that hurt them. So it's a completely confidential document. In the wintertime, you may be asked to submit extra documentation for purposes of verification. Verification is a funny word for more paperwork. That's all it is. The schools are going to want to verify what you put on the FAFSA. Just give them those documents and you're going to be just fine. Again, make sure we keep track of deadlines, guys, and that this process does repeat every single year. All right, a little bit more of a calendar review for you all. I know it kind of helps for visual learners. Again, October 1st, we're completing our FAFSAs as soon as possible. In the wintertime, I might get selected for verification by my schools. I'm going to watch my email students, okay? I'm going to give them those documents that they're asking for, and I'm going to be good. And then the springtime is going to hit, right, for my high school seniors, and I'm going to get financial aid award letters or financial aid offers from my institutions. This is where me as a student and my family are going to have to compare the costs of the schools I apply to and make the best decision for me. What's going to be most cost effective for me, okay? I'm going to tell the colleges, hey, I'm coming, I'm in. Or no, I'm not coming, you're too expensive. Whatever one, they're going to want to know either way. Complete all other pending processes. This could be like if you're living on campus, for example, you're going to have to submit a housing deposit. Things like that. Later, when the school year is approaching for you to go to school, we're going to be asking for you for additional documentation as well. And again, this process renews every single year. Every October, we're renewing our FAFSA. Okay, some specific sources for you all on our ISAC student portal. College Greenlight is a very well-organized scholarship search engine, and it's also free. Students create a profile, and it will match scholarships to them. I highly recommend checking that out. I recommend it to all students and families I work with. They have other tools in there, like for financial aid and money management. If you're looking for certain career search engines, Illinois WorkNet, another great resource for students and families as well. So I would take a look at those as well. Our trusted websites. This is the website that we just went over, that student portal, where all those resources were. Studentportal.isac.org. Studentaid.gov has a lot of frequently asked financial aid questions answered for you that Fred just kind of went over. Again, FAFSA.gov is the site for the FAFSA. It's not .com, it's not .org. And then ISAC.org is / alternative app, of course, is for the alternative application. Another resource we have at ISAC, and we have a texting hotline. Live people run this around the clock. If you don't feel like maybe texting or emailing me for some reason, you can text these people. It will ask you for your name and the name of your school, and they will send you reminders throughout the year. Hey, October 1st, it's time to fill out FAFSA. On May 1st, they will text you saying it's National College Decision Day, please make a decision. And if you have questions, they will answer them live for you. For most of us here in the Illinois 3rd Congressional District, we'll be using the 708 number or maybe the 773 number. So just keep that in mind. And that's all I have for you tonight. I try to go as quick as I could. I know it's a lot of information for you. This is my contact information. I can give it to you all later as well. I'll be happy to address questions after everyone is done presenting. And I'll turn it back over to Jacqueline. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thanks for all that great information, Tommy. Pretty neat with the texting option now. Things have certainly evolved since the day I was in school. Pretty awesome. So yeah, those reminders seem pretty helpful. And I just want to quickly remind everyone, if you have questions, feel free to submit those in the chat box as we're going. I know we've already answered some questions from Jamie and Brenda, but keep them coming. We want to make sure that if you have questions that we get to them, and we have a great panel to help us out tonight. So I'm now going to go ahead and welcome Ms. Keely Fletcher, who is the Executive Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships at the University of Illinois, Chicago. With over 20 years of higher education administration, her primary areas of focus are student financial aid and regulatory operations in student financial services. Currently, the University of Illinois at Chicago processes over $600 million in federal, state, and institutional funding per year, providing financial counseling to the student population, over 33,000 students. Thank you so much for being here, Keely. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Good evening, everybody. So glad to be here. Such great information that's already been shared with you from the Department of Education as well as from ISAC. So the focus of my presentation is what happens when that information is sent to your institution. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll go through, hopefully you all can see that, and we will go through our PowerPoint here. So basically what will happen is once you file your FAFSA or once you file your state application, oh, hold on one second. There's a little technical difficulties here. Let me see if I can get this going for everybody. Okay, here we go. So what happens when we receive your information from when you file the FAFSA or when you file the state application that Tommy just went through with everyone here in the state of that is an option for folks here in the state of Illinois. Well, one of two things will typically occur. One, we'll either request additional information for you, or we will issue you an award notification, which is your financial aid award offer. So let's talk about when we request additional information. Tommy did touch on this briefly as well, that there's a process when it comes to filing your FAFSA that some families are selected for. It's called verification. So applications are randomly selected each year by the Department of Education. So the purpose of verification is to confirm the accuracy of the information on your FAFSA. Completion of this process is mandatory. We have to complete this process in order for us to offer you federal financial aid, and a lot of different programs are also tied to verification. State financial aid is also tied to the verification process, as well as for us at UIC, our institutional financial aid programs are also tied to the completion of the verification process as well. Why this is important to keep in mind is sometimes the process can take several weeks to complete. So if you are selected, it is definitely recommended to get that information in to the institution that you wish to attend as soon as possible to ensure that there is no delays before the start of the academic year for you in terms of securing your financial aid notification. So let's talk about that notification. Generally now, most financial aid notifications are sent by email. They're sent electronically. Again, this is also offered through many of the institutions' student portal or their self-service access. I will show you briefly when we go through the award notification what that would look like for you while you attend the University of Illinois. But most all institutions in the United States have gone in this direction to offer you an email award notification that's hosted through that particular student portal at that institution. So let's talk about the award notification, how to read it. This is what a basic financial aid award notification looks like. And there's a lot of numbers on here, a lot of information. But basically with the financial aid notification, the purpose is to explain to you your estimated financial aid awards. You can also view the estimated costs as well as access other information with regard to aid for the upcoming academic year for you and your student. So we're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail and break down each of these components for you. So the most important thing that you want to look for when you're looking at your award notification is the cost of attendance. Now this will vary from school to school. Each student constructs their own, each institution constructs their own cost of attendance. Usually it is by two components. One is direct costs, which is particularly from the university. These are typically tuition, mandatory fees, and dorm expenses or residence halls. Those are what we call charges directly assessed to you by the institution. But that's not the only thing that's in your cost of attendance when you get your award notification. There are also indirect costs. Indirect costs can include books, transportation costs, as well as other personal expenses, which includes things like laundry, things of that nature, personal expenses that your student will need while they are enrolled at that university. So why that is important is we use the cost of attendance, and then we take that in consideration with what's the expected family contribution, which is what's determined by your FAFSA, that's calculated by your FAFSA as was discussed earlier in the presentation tonight, and then we determine your financial need. Financial need is what allows us to consider you for specific need-based financial aid awards. So this is one of the main calculating factors when it comes to the types of financial aid that you are eligible to receive at each individual institution. You can also see how in some institutions that could vary because the cost of attendance does change from institution to institution. Now your expected family contribution does not. That is from the FAFSA or the state application. That does not vary from institution to institution. But again, your financial need might vary because of that cost of attendance figure. So when we're talking about the need calculation, here's an example. So if you look at the cost of attendance for this particular student, it's $35,164. the expected family contribution as calculated from the FAFSA was 0. So as calculated by that application, that family does not have the resources to contribute to that particular student's education for that academic year, which means the initial need for that family is the full cost of attendance. We also take into consideration any types of outsourced resources. So if you don't have any of those either, that would be a third-party scholarship, maybe from one of your community organizations or from your high school. We do take that into consideration when it comes to your overall need. But in this case, this particular student does not have any outside resources. So their need is the maximum cost of attendance to on their award notification. So looking at our costs at UIC, this is a detailed breakdown. So you will see on our award notification, we break it down into 2 categories. We break it down again into that direct cost or cost charged by the university category. So this is what we estimate that based on your particular student's enrollment information, but they will be charged while attending university. But then we also include those estimated variable expenses, such as books and supplies, housing and food, transportation, as well as personal expenses. So that's how we construct a cost of attendance. And this is important because, again, it will vary from school to school. Another thing that's really important is what we call a student profile. In some areas, this is called enrollment information. In other schools, it can be called student demographics. But generally, this is what the information that we receive from your student that impacts their financial aid. And big things would be their class level. In some circumstances, where they enroll. In some institutions, different majors have different costs associated to it. We also anticipate a different type of enrollment status, whether you intend to enroll for full-time, part-time, so on and so forth, and then also the FAFSA calculated EFC. So grade level will impact the amount of loans that the student can receive. Credits and with enrollment can also impact grant eligibility. And again, as we talked about a little bit ago, the expected family contribution will impact all the need-based aid on the award notification. So the financial aid summary, this is the other major component of your financial aid award notification, probably the big ticket item that you're looking for when you get your award notification. What aid am I going to get? So this particular summary will reflect all the financial aid offered for that particular academic year. So just please keep in mind, you have to apply every year for financial aid. Financial aid is academic year specific. So this will only apply to that particular academic year. Where that we will make a difference between what kind of aid you're receiving is there's 2 major types, gift aid and self-help aid. Gift aid is primarily grants and scholarships, and self-help aid are either work programs or loan programs. Our financial aid award offers at the University of Illinois are separated by those 2 categories. So you will see those categories separated out. You will see gift aid, and then you will see what we call self-help aid. So in this particular student, as their example, you will see a federal Pell Grant and an estimated MAP grant. Those are gift aid, those are grant funding that does not need to be repaid. And at the bottom, you will see loans that are offered. So that is where you will see the difference between what is the gift aid associated for that particular academic year, and as well as the self-help aid associated for that particular academic year. So now I think this is something that we're hearing quite a bit recently, especially considering the global pandemic that we're currently under. What happens if your information has changed on your FAFSA? So we do allow students and their families to appeal their financial situation if they have had changes based on job loss, reduction in hours. It does not have to be specific to the student. It can be into the family if it is a dependent student. And it provides a means for you to update your actual academic year information with your current financial situation. Now, the process to appeal does vary from institution to institution, but typically you will be required to provide documentation to support your appeal requests. This is the link for our process here at UIC in terms of how we process that, but it is an option. Almost every institution does permit some form of change of financial situation appeal or a resource appeal if your circumstances have changed from when you filed your FAFSA to what you anticipate your finances to be for that particular academic year. So again, this is a really important process for you to determine for each institution you're going to if you and your family have had a change of your financial situation due to the global pandemic. So contacting us, this is our contact information at UIC. We're more than happy to help you. We are actually open. We actually do have, our offices are currently open, seeing students and families on a walk-in basis. And we also are able to take Zoom appointments as well as email correspondence as well. So if you have any questions, At any point in time, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And that's the end of my presentation, my part of this particular group. So with that said, I will pass the Zoom back over to Jacqueline O'Day.
Thanks so much, Kaylee. That's, again, a wealth of information. We really appreciate the deep dive that you provided. I'm going to go ahead again. Please keep the questions coming to the chat box. If you have any, we'll keep going. I'm going to now move over. We're going to hear from Mr. Aaron Lemon-Strauss, who's the Vice President of College and Career Readiness at the College Board. In his role, Aaron leads the College Board's digital efforts to clear a path for students to college and career success. With the responsibility for the College Board, they have some awesome tools such as Big Future, AccuPlacer, and have partnerships with the Khan Academy and Road Trip Nation. Aaron is charged with helping students take the right next step in their journey to college and off into their careers. Welcome, Aaron.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Thanks Congressman Lipinski and all the other guests. This has been such helpful information. I'm glad everyone's still here checking it out. I want to run through a couple of extra resources, although I will say, and a couple people have referenced this, the single most important thing that everyone listening should do is fill out the FAFSA. So College Board has nothing to do with that. It's not a College Board thing. I'm just going to tell you, though, filling out the FAFSA is the most important thing. So I hope if you hear one thing from all of this, it's actually nothing I say. It's just what Mark was talking about, and it's fill out FAFSA. So I hope everyone takes that away. But I do want to talk about some resources that the College Board does have and how they can help you and your family in your journey. The College Board is a nonprofit organization. We're a membership organization of higher ed and K-12. So we were created over 120 years ago in order to bring together K-12 and higher ed into a single system and create tools that better connect those systems. And so you may know the College Board because of the SAT or advanced placement, but I actually want to talk about some non-SAT, non-AP resources that we have that are all free and all here to help support you. The first thing I want to talk about is the College Board Opportunity Scholarships. So we created this scholarship program, the College Board Opportunity Scholarships, to provide money. And so every year we give out millions of dollars, so that's good. But the real reason we did it is to outline the key steps that students should be taking on their journey to college, and then put money behind taking those steps. So we think it's important, for instance, that you fill out the FAFSA. And so we have a scholarship that we give just for filling out the FAFSA. You fill out the FAFSA, you're entered to win our scholarship. That's all you got to do. You don't have to write an essay. You don't have to send an application. You just have to say, I filled out the FAFSA, and boom, you're entered to win the scholarship. And that's to try to get kids and families to fill out the FAFSA, along with the other key steps in the process, which we'll go over here in a second. So we committed $25 million over the next 5 years, so $5 million a year. Launched in 2018, half of all the scholarships go to families who earn less than $60,000 a year. So the money is weighted. So we've got basically two pools. So more than half of all the dollars go out, because half the dollars are strictly for students, for families making under 60,000, and then the other half is broadly available. Again, as I mentioned, it's no need to do anything here. No need to fill out an application. No need to submit an essay. No need to anything. We got $5 million we're giving away a year just for taking key steps along the process. Open to all juniors and seniors in the U.S. So everyone here qualifies. And it's meant to reward sort of the effort and action. For the class of 2020, so the sort of recently graduated, 470,000 students signed up for CBOS, for the College Board Opportunity Scholarships, and they were awarded 4,225 winners to date. So here are the steps. So what we want you to do is we want you to build a college list. So we want you to come on to Big Future for free and build a list of the colleges you are most interested in. University of Illinois, Chicago, maybe, and just get the juices flowing. Start exploring colleges. Start adding some to your list. Once you do that, that's all you have to do. Boom, you're entered to win $500. We want you to practice for free for the SAT on Khan Academy, which we're going to talk about in a second more. And once you do that, boom, you're entered to win. We want you to improve your score. We want you to grow, which you can do through Khan Academy. We want you to then go back to your college list and strengthen it. We want you to make sure you're having a balanced list with some reaches, some fit schools, and some safeties. Want you to complete the FAFSA, which I mentioned. And then, of course, we want you to apply to college. So just by virtue of then applying to colleges, you're entered to win that $1,000 scholarship. If you do all 6 of those things, you're then entered to win a $40,000 scholarship. I feel like in talking about this, it could come off as like used car salesman, but I promise it's all free. No need to do anything other than the stuff you should be doing to get to college anyway, and we're putting money behind that. So I hope folks will check this out by going to cb.org, so collegeboard.org/opportunity. And you can log in using your College Board account, which most students probably have because of SAT, PSAT, AP, or you can, of course, create one. And then find out more information. So that's cb.org/opportunity. As Abigail, who was a winner, said, you know, it's a win-win. You create a college interest list or practice for SAT or whatever, and you get rewarded for doing so. So you're taking the action that is already in your interest and is already setting you up for success, and you get rewarded for doing that. I'll put that link back up in a second. I want to talk to you about 2 other things quickly. One is official SAT practice on Khan Academy, which hopefully folks are aware of. We created this with Khan Academy because we wanted to create the best way to practice for the SAT, and then it just happens to be free. So we'd heard feedback from students in higher ed and counselors that students were spending money, or they just couldn't afford to spend money on commercial test prep. So we wanted to create a way that you don't need to spend any money and you can get the world's best SAT practice. We've had 10 million unique users since we launched this. 5 million have linked to their College Board and Khan Academy accounts to get personalized practice. And we've seen an overall decline in commercial test prep usage by 10%. In fact, at every income band, including our highest income families, $250,000 a year and up, more students practice for the SAT on Khan Academy than all of commercial test prep combined. So even in the households that could clearly afford a tutor, they're choosing to prepare for free on Khan Academy. Not because it's free, but because it's the best. And that's the confidence that you can have, even if you couldn't yourself afford a tutor, you can know that you can still get the best practice on Khan Academy. Lauren tweeted that she wished she could personally thank Khan Academy for how much she helped. She's never felt more confident in any test before. It's exciting. Maya points out that normally if you don't have money to pay for a class, you're just stuck, which is a terrible feeling for something like the SAT. And Eddie's like, God bless Khan Academy. I'm going to go take the SAT. So Eddie's excited to take the SAT. I don't know if I'm going to be able to promise that you will be excited to take the SAT, but I will promise that you'll be more prepared to take the SAT, even if you don't, get super excited about it. Just as a quick overview here, it starts by sending your data that you choose to send from College Board to Khan Academy so that it can be personalized and you can get exactly the instruction that makes the most sense for you and that helps improve your score the most. So everyone here will get a different plan on Khan Academy because you all have different strengths and different opportunities. And the question, of course, is it working? And the answer is yes. Tens of thousands of students who have gains of more than 200 points or more, and score increases that go up with more time practicing. And so that's at satpractice.org. I'll have a slide in a second that puts up all 3. And then finally, I mentioned this earlier, but I want to highlight Big Future, which is our website created in partnership with all of our higher ed members that provides information about colleges, scholarships, and helps you build a college list. So now on Big Future, and this is new this year, you can build a balanced college list like wealthier students who might have private counselors. So you now have the opportunity to get that list that has the right selection of reach schools, fit schools, safety schools, that looks at the average cost for you after aid, and allows you to build a really balanced, strong list. So 3 links that I talked about, just so you have them. So cb.org/opportunity for the College Board Opportunity Scholarships, satpractice.org for official SAT practice on Khan Academy, and bigfuture.org for Big Future, where you can find out information about colleges, scholarships, career paths, everything else you might need to know on the way to get there. So that's what I got. So I'm going to hand it back to Jacqueline and then hang around to see what questions folks may have.
Great. Thank you so much, Aaron. Some great resources. Awesome you guys offer free SAT prep. That's really valuable for students. I'm going to turn it back to the Congressman, and then we'll jump into our Q&A. Again, please, if you have questions, please continue to send them to the chat box. Congressman?
Thank you, Jacqueline. I want to thank all of our presenters here. I did a great job. I was going to, if I had any questions, I was going to ask them here, but everything that I had thought of, you wound up answering. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jacqueline right now to get to some of the questions that came in from our audience, and then I'll be with you to close out when that is over. So back over to Jacqueline.
All right, thank you. I know we've been going along and answering your questions as they go. Hopefully you found these presentations informative. We will also, this is being recorded, and we'll have this video up and available on the Congressman's website tomorrow. So if there's something you missed, or something that you didn't catch tonight, we'll certainly make this available afterwards as well. So I know there's a number of questions that have kind of come through. We can quickly go through those. You may have seen a lot of them. The answers have been kind of flowing through as we go. So Jamie had asked a question. It showed selective services mail. Can you please explain this? The question that we got back was from Fred, and he explained that male students between the ages of 18 to 25 will still need to register for selective service. This can be done directly through the FAFSA application for your convenience. We also received another question from Brenda asking to post a link for the special circumstance webinar. That has been shared also by Fred. I know we have other questions. I see another question here we got from, I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Sevastoslav. And she asked, will this lecture be available as a recording to refer to later? And yes, it certainly will be. We will be making it available on Congressman Lipinski's Facebook page. So you can come back tomorrow and check for it, and we'll have that recording available for you. If you have other questions, please feel free to submit them. I will go ahead and just touch on the other questions. I know we're a couple minutes past 7 p.m., so I do want to be sensitive to everyone's time. So we'll go through these real quickly. And again, if you have any final questions, please send them through. We have this awesome panel, and if you have something, now's a great time to ask. We received another question from Brenda, and she asked, what was the rationale for the requirement that Illinois students complete the FAFSA as a graduation requirement? Tommy explained that the rationale is intended to make everyone aware that FAFSA exists. The Board of Education does provide an opt-out waiver if you so wanted. Another question we received is, why isn't the $5,000 loan all subsidized rather than about half as unsubsidized? Keely responded that the maximum amount of subsidized loans that a student can borrow is determined by the student's year in school. I see that General Brown also just shared some information. There was a question on why some states require FAFSA to be filled out before student aid. So federal student aid is a needs-based program, some of which you do not need to pay back, grants and work study. You are entitled to this benefit. This entitlement is accessed through FAFSA. This may likely reduce how much is needed from state aid, which is limited by budget constraints. That is why FAFSA First view aid as a total package of federal, state, scholarships, and perhaps other civic organizations. Finally, make borrowing your last option and borrow only what is absolutely needed. That is helpful information, General Brown. Some other quick just questions that I have here. And maybe maybe Fred or General Brown or Tommy can jump on this. Do they have to fill out the alternative application every year? I know it was mentioned the FAFSA has to be filled out every year, but also is the alternative application also, and Tommy is shaking his head, so it sounds like a yes. That also has to be submitted every year. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, so yeah, both, either when you fill out FAFSA or the alternative application, both have to be renewed each year, each October, no matter which one you fill out.
Just one quick thing too, thanks Tommy. But also, if you're filing a FAFSA, you don't also need to submit the state application. If you're eligible to file a FAFSA, that is your state application as well. So you don't need to file both. So if you are unable to file the FAFSA because of citizenship reasons or because of the selective service requirement, then you have the other option of submitting the alternative application, but you don't have to submit that for state aid if you're FAFSA eligible. The FAFSA is all you need to do, but that does need to be done every year.
Awesome. Are there any additional opportunities for veterans to receive financial aid? I know maybe Fred or General Brown, I don't know if you have any information on that might be helpful.
Yeah, I would say this. There's not necessarily in Title IV funding for veterans specifically, but there are some. I would strongly encourage veterans like to check out the VA website and see what kind of educational assistance is available, like the TAP or tuition assistance or maybe GI or whatever programs they offer to go with what you will be eligible for in completing the FAFSA for Title IV federal aid in addition to state aid as well. So a combination of all those sources can help you meet your financial need. But there is not a specific Title IV grant or loan program specifically for veterans.
All right, kind of on that similar wavelength, you know, there's a public service loan forgiveness program, Fred. You know, can you briefly just share some information about that for people? You know, I know it's something that students might not be thinking about now, but something they may be able to consider down the road. I
would strongly suggest first and foremost that individuals check out our website at Studentaid.gov. That's going to be your one-stop shop source for all this information. Of course, public service loan forgiveness is a program that may be something that will benefit you if you have student loans. The requirements we just came out with some new enhancements with the program that will make the application process a much more smoother process, as well as information where some students have challenges identifying if the employer that they are working with is an eligible employer in order to participate in the program. So we've just enhanced our tool on the website that will tell you whether or not your employer is an eligible employer for you to participate in the program. But again, it's a program in which you have to make 120 on-time payments. And after you make those payments successfully, and if you have any remaining student loan debt, you can be considered for forgiveness. So I would strongly encourage you to go to Studentaid.gov to check out the information and see specifically if this is something that's applicable for you.
Fred, I would offer just one other piece to that on the previous question as well. If you are a veteran and you're a disabled veteran and you have a student loan, if that's a total and permanent disability, then that student loan will be forgiven. If you write into us and ask that question, then that loan would be forgiven. And also, if you have a loan and you're in the TEACH program and you're teaching at a Title I school, which is normally a school that has a certain percentage of free lunch activities, those kinds of things, and poverty. And after 10 years of very minimum payments based on your income, those loans can be turned into grants, and that's called the TEACH program. So again, as Fred says, you can read more about those on Studentaid.gov, and I encourage you to do so.
That's really helpful information. And again, I think Keely had shared some information through the chat box, as did Tommy, about some of the veterans resources. We'll also go ahead and send that public service loan forgiveness link as well to the chat box to have that as well. Another program, maybe Tommy or Trey can touch on this one, the Illinois Special Education Teacher Tuition Waiver Program. Can you guys just briefly touch on that? I think that's another one, you know, that might be in addition to some of the programs that General Brown had talked about, but that's more specific to the state. Tommy or Trey?
Sorry, Jacqueline. Yeah, the special education tuition waiver. So it is for students who are interested in special education can get that tuition waived. I have the same link that I provided there. It has the list of all the requirements to do that. Again, the thing I mentioned, again, I forgot how many years it is. It's either 2 or 4, I think. There's a teacher requirement attached to that. So whatever you were granted in that tuition waiver, that would turn into a loan if you didn't complete that after you graduated. So that's the special education tuition waiver that they do offer. You hit that link in the chat box, it'll have all the specific details there about the special education tuition waiver.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, I know we're kind of run out of time, so unless there's any further questions, we'll go ahead and we'll wrap up. This has been very helpful. I know I've learned a whole ton this evening. You know, so thank you again so much to all of our awesome panelists. You know, General Brown, Fred, Trey, Tommy, Keely, and Aaron. Really appreciate you guys spending your Monday evening with us and, you know, all the students across the 3rd District trying to get more information about financial resources and how to pay for the cost of education. This has been really helpful. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Congressman Lipinski for some final remarks to close us out.
Great. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank all of our panelists, General Mark Brown, Fred Stennis, Tommy Semanek, Trey Cohen, Keely Fletcher, and Aaron Lemon-Strauss. Thank all of you for giving your time tonight. Is very helpful. And I saw another question just come in there at the end. Yes, we will make this available on our website, lipinski.house.gov. If you want to review this, or if anyone else wants to see it, please let them know. But thank you all. Thank everyone for participating. I want to wish all of our everyone that's applying to college. I know it's a tough time right now, and I just wish you all the best in your application process. And good luck going forward. And with that, I want to thank everyone and wish everyone a good night.
This concludes Congressman Dan Lipinski's virtual information session on financing college. This event has been recorded and will be available to view in full on Congressman Lipinski's Facebook page tomorrow. Thank you again for joining us tonight. You may disconnect now.